It's Christmas week 1969, and I'm 10 years old. And I come home from school, and I see this package on my kitchen table. It's addressed to me and my two sisters. Now, I've got a pretty good idea I know what it is. It's a Christmas ornament made by a family friend. So I run over, I open it up with the excitement of a 10-year-old, and I'm looking at it, and I'm saying, this is like no Christmas ornament I've ever seen before. It's a block of wood with 3 words painted on it. Misery is optional. So the 10-year-old in me says, what's going on? But my mother comes over to me and she said, you know, Joseph, one day when you grow up, you'll understand what this all means. And here we are, 54 years later, I figured it out and was still talking about it. So I grew up in New York with my parents and 2 sisters, and the foundation of our family was something based on the 3 F's: family, faith, and food. Now, the food part was really very important. I learned at an early age the power of food, eating together a freshly made meal. And so, with my mother at the head of our cooking division, I realized that she was years ahead of her time, somewhat of a Renaissance woman in the kitchen. She knew years ago, back in the 60s, processed foods were no good. Artificial colors, artificial sweeteners. She wanted no part of that in our house. Living with her was almost as if we were in the midst of a master class on cooking food and nutrition. And we were eating the Mediterranean diet way before it was fashionable. Now, with all of this health and wellness, disease prevention, nutrition, and emphasis on food, I went and got into a career in medicine. And I graduated 36 years ago. I've specialized in gastroenterology and hepatology, which is liver disease. And I think about that and go figure, where does food go? In your stomach. Where is it processed? In your liver. And so, since graduating medical school, the first 25 years or so was, for all of us in liver disease, was dedicated to a condition called hepatitis C. All of us in liver disease, we really were somewhat overwhelmed with this condition of hepatitis C. And it's a virus that affects the liver. It can lead to damage and scarring and cirrhosis and even the need for a liver transplant. But we really didn't have very good therapy at that time. We would say that the therapy was worse than the disease. But with a lot of hard work, research, much of which I was blessed to participate in 2014, we came up with a cure for hepatitis C. And for the first time, the 4 million Americans with hepatitis C had a cure, had a therapy, and something to be happy about. And of course, all of us were just thrilled with that achievement. But in the horizon, there was a tsunami. And like all tsunamis, they are silent and deadly. And this disease, this tsunami, is called metabolic associated fatty liver disease, or fatty liver disease for short. And it is a leading cause of cirrhosis, liver cancer, liver failure, and the leading indication for liver transplantation today. Misery is optional. And so how did we get here? Well, without obesity, there'd essentially be no fatty liver disease. There'd be no 100 million people walking around with fatty liver disease. And it is our addiction to processed food. And when you look over the years, our portion size and calories per day has steadily increased over time. Now, I treat patients with fatty liver disease, which is just the tip of the iceberg with regard to this entire obesity story. But the other obesity-related diseases are posted there. And this is the perfect storm for the development of chronic disease and a shortened lifespan, obesity. Now, I personally enjoy shopping. I like to go to the supermarket, look around, buy some stuff. But for many, it is a trap. Because when you go into the supermarket, you're surrounded by things that you're not quite sure what to buy. And so if you look at 1975, there were about 9,000 different food products. Currently, that number has bloated to over 50,000 different products. So as we walk aisle to aisle, we're trying to figure out, oh gee, do I want heart healthy for my kids, paleo, keto, gluten-free, lactose-free? We're walking around in a daze. We're just buying things off the shelf here. And the research will show that when all of us go to make a purchase, and it doesn't matter if we're buying a car, a pair of jeans, or food for our house, the more options we have, the more confused we get. Now, food literacy, cooking literacy, is at an all-time low. We tell our patients all the time, eat better. And I'm sure many of you have gone to the doctor and they say, hey, look, try to eat a little better. But you know what? My patients don't know how to eat better because they are so programmed to getting processed food. This is the new norm. They go and try to pick out leeks, beets, turnips. They don't know what it is. They don't know what it tastes like. They don't know how to cook it. They don't know the nutritional value. They don't know if they keep the skin on, eat the seeds, throw the seeds out. So instead, they go to aisle 11 and pick up some frozen vegetable lasagna and call it a day. Now, you're probably familiar with all the technology we have in healthcare. We have artificial intelligence. We have robots assisting us in surgery. Things should be better today, right? But the truth is, we are more chronically ill today than we were 50 years ago. So the cost of obesity-related disease is $200 billion a year. Now, to put that in perspective, NASA has an annual budget of $33 billion a year. So while they are putting rockets in space, exploring the galaxies beyond, we can't figure out how to make a healthier dinner at home for our families and our kids. Now, this heat map here of diabetes and obesity, there are 37 million Americans with diabetes. That number has tripled in the past 30 years. Tripled. So again, with all the technology, we are unable to control this freight train. Now, on this heat map, what you need to remember is that the darker the boxes, the more disease, the more diabetes, and the more obesity. So from 2004, let's fast forward 15 years, and that's where we're at today. Going in the wrong direction, misery is optional. Talking about kids, our children. Childhood obesity has quadrupled in 20 years. There are now 15 million children walking around with obesity. The children of today will not live as long as their parents because they are stricken with cardiovascular disease, diabetes, depression, liver disease. I see 18-year-olds with cirrhosis. And they're getting these diseases decades earlier than their parents or grandparents. They're getting the diseases of what grandma used to get when they're 15 years old. That is what, unfortunately, is killing the children. Now, we cannot spend our way out of this problem. So when you look at this graph here, the two things to remember or to see. The United States is spending more money per capita on healthcare than most other developed countries. The other part of this is life expectancy. So we're spending more money and underperforming. The other countries that you see there in the top left, they're spending less money and having a higher survival. A lot of this is based on the food they're eating and the food we are not eating. And we have assumed a defensive posture here. More pills. You have a problem, take a pill. It doesn't work that way. The answer is not more pills. It's not more surgeries. It's not more testing. We're going to win this. The offensive approach is knowledge and with the food we eat. Now, this tsunami is still out there, and it is gaining speed, and you have to wonder, how are we going to stop this? Well, I ask that you come with me. Come with me on this journey. Be part of our mission. And at all opportunities, we have to fight the pressure to eat processed food, ultra-processed food, that is essentially killing us. Now, we started off with my mom. We bring her back. Now, a lot of people have asked me, well, what happened to Mom? Well, she died a few years ago at the age of 88. Dad died last year at the age of 97. Neither had diabetes, neither had dementia. And for the most part, they were eating the Mediterranean diet until the day they died. But what would Mom say if she was standing up here with us? Well, she would say, please adopt my philosophy of the fresh food, homemade meals for yourself and for your household. Now, what's our action plan here? How on earth do we tackle this? Well, first we have to make sure you all know your personal dashboard. We have to look at our own body as a dashboard with multiple check engine, check liver light, or whatever you want to call it. But these 5 indicators that I've posted here, and let me just say, at the end, there's another QR code for you to scan, for a toolkit, for resources for you to download and hang on to. But you need to be familiar with these 5 indicators, because if any are abnormal, they're too high or too low, that is probably a good indication that you are going to be experiencing some obesity-related complication, be it fatty liver, be it diabetes, heart disease, cancer. Keep in mind there are 13 unique cancers that are associated with obesity. So I want you to download the information, the little toolkit. There is a form there for you to know your 5 parameters. Go to your doctor. If any are abnormal, you need to sit with them and develop a plan of action. The stakes are just too great here. Eliminate all sugary drinks, including your morning frappuccino. These beverages have absolutely no nutritional value, and they are the driving engine behind chronic disease, obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease. Now, this is the food I would like all of you to eat. Now, we were talking about Mediterranean diet. Like I said, back in 1969, we didn't know Mediterranean diet. It was Mom's cooking. Fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, nuts, beans, citrus, and fish. Now look at this. If you notice that any of these foods left out on your table will be rotten within a day, that is your goal. Eat food that's going to rot on your table. Something that doesn't have a shelf life of 47 and a half years. So go home, look in your refrigerator. If I take that out tonight, will it be rotten in the morning? If it is, that's the kind of food you want to eat. So you have to transition from this ultra-processed food, things in a box, can, or bag that you microwave, take out of a can, bag, fake food, it's Frankenstein food. You want to shift towards these kind of foods. Now, I have a gift for you also on the QR code, 5 recipes for breakfast, 5 for lunch, 5 for dinner. They're plant-based. Inspire your friends. Teach your children. Have fun with them. And realize that you could do this. Because patients every day come to me and they say, I'm too tired. I don't like to cook. My kitchen gets dirty. All these excuses not to cook at home. You have to fight those forces. So those 5 breakfast, lunch, dinner recipes are there for you to experiment and really reassure you that regardless of your age or your skill or your financial status, you can cook these meals at home. And we have to invest in food and cooking literacy in our youth, our students, their families, and our community. We have to make that connection, that bridge between what you eat and your health. Now, going back to the way I grew up, a shared meal at the table with your siblings, your parents, your roommates, your community, whoever that may be, is a powerful event. We must embrace it. And while we have been talking about misery is optional, and I still believe misery is optional, right there, joy and health are attainable for all of us. Thank you very much.